Now, a few days ago, I was eating a delicious sandwich. Let me tell you about this sandwich, because it had some excellent things like a fried chicken breast, Swiss cheese, and bacon, just to name the stars of this fantastic dish. Now, while eating this symphony of ingredients, my mind pondered a very important question. Is the state of San Andreas in GTA 5 walkable? Now, this is a question that could be asked in the next few centuries, so it must be answered now before April 19th, 2027, when the homunculus will consume the Earth, unfortunately. So, before we begin, a little bit of a background on the fictional state of San Andreas. San Andreas is an island state within the United States of America that is heavily inspired by the real-life US state of California, which becomes immensely obvious by just looking at a few screenshots of the game. Within the state, it includes the fictional cities of Los Santos, Sandy Shores, and Paleto Bay, among dozens of other smaller locales. GTA 5 is considered one of the greatest games of all time, which is a reputation that it earns in part from its technological advancements, such as its incredibly detailed and large open world. Of course, despite some of the direct similarities to real-life California, San Andreas is, of course, not a direct copy of California, nor does it even resemble it in its geography. After all, San Andreas is an island, while California is an enormous coastal state. Comparably, San Andreas is really no larger, if not smaller, than the real-life city of Albany, New York. So, I decided to immerse myself in the sticky goo that is GTA 5, and took to the streets of Los Santos as a pedestrian to try and navigate the region. I started off in the Los Santos neighborhood of Strawberry, an urban working-class suburb filled with plenty of businesses. Unfortunately, this neighborhood is divided by massive roads that can have 4 or more lanes with few pedestrian crossings. While Strawberry has some of the most pedestrian crossings out of any Los Santos neighborhood, it also has some of the widest and most congested roads in the city. Acting as a resident of Strawberry, I decided to go to the Los Santos International Airport to catch a flight to see Aphex Twin live in Malibu. Now, of course, getting from Strawberry to LSIA is not really that easy of a task, as only 2 routes exist. The first one is a large multi-lane highway with no sidewalk and little shoulder space to begin with, making motor vehicles the only easy way to traverse this concrete jungle. The second alternative is to walk along the sidewalks going from Strawberry all the way through La Puerta into LSIA, but this is a very long walk. While pedestrian pathways do exist all the way to LSIA, they're poorly maintained and force pedestrians to take long and extraneous routes, resulting in a 9-minute and 12-second walk all the way from just Strawberry, and not other locales like Vinewood Hills. In comparison, a drive to LSIA from Strawberry, while disregarding traffic rules, is only 1 minute and 9 seconds. Alternatively, you could make use of the Los Santos transit system, which has buses that run into and out of LSIA. The second part of the LST is the metro, which, much like the real-life Los Angeles metro system, is sparse and not very efficient. For example, a ride into LSIA to Little Seoul is around 2 minutes and 7 seconds. However, this is a significant advantage over walking. The downside is how quickly driving would get you there instead. Some of the LST stations are also not very accessible, or in some cases, not at all. If you're disabled or otherwise have a mobility impairment, your only option is this. The neighborhood of Little Seoul is much like Strawberry, with large open roads, but is also somehow worse, with significantly less pedestrian crossings that are far less frequent than they are in Strawberry. The Vespucci Beach neighborhood is possibly the only area in the entirety of San Andreas that could be considered walkable. It has plenty of stores and housing for the average working Joe, making it the most desirable and one of the most inexpensive neighborhoods. It's so pedestrian-centric, driving a car even near the area will get the cops called on you. Vinewood Hills is by far the worst place to be a pedestrian in San Andreas, because it is literally impossible. A highly affluent and dense neighborhood, Vinewood Hills has not a single sidewalk in the entirety of the neighborhood, instead being occupied by extremely narrow and curvy streets. The only piece of pavement for a pedestrian to walk on is the outskirts of the hills, which borders a playground far from the rest of civilization. The other 2 major cities in San Andreas are those of Paleto Bay and Sandy Shores. While realistically walking is not ideal given the distance between these 3 cities, it would be impossible if you genuinely decided to go down that path given the lack of sidewalks and even rolled shoulders along either Route 1 or Route 13. No other form of transit other than private vehicles exists besides long-distance buses like Dashuns, making it extremely difficult to get to either city. Ultimately, San Andreas as a whole does not have walkable infrastructure. The lack of transportation infrastructure besides highways means that getting to cities outside of Los Santos itself is extremely difficult. There is no commuter rail, and neither is there anything like short flights. While Los Santos itself does have infrastructure to allow individuals to get around the city, it lacks infrastructure complex and efficient enough to be considerably useful and reduce private vehicle usage. So, now you know. GTA 5 does not have walkable infrastructure. I hope you enjoyed this fairly silly video. I wasn't even lying. I genuinely was eating a delicious sandwich when this idea came to my mind. Is GTA walkable? And here we are. Hey, if you enjoyed this, leave a like and, maybe subscribe too. I'd appreciate it.